and the mic moves around and it's just
just talking here.
Okay.
I don't know if my mic is on yet. It's not on yet. Okay.
No,
But you'll hear yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll turn.
If you don't want to hear yourself, you can always take the headphones off.
Yeah.
I don't know that I do actually. Just dance along.
Good morning and welcome back, Billings. I tell you what, my ice skates are sharp after this morning. They are on. They are ready.
You just ice skated to work.
Exactly. You just ice skate to work. Take your time. Do a little. What are the fancy? It's not a pirouette.
I was going to say pirouette.
Axles.
Yes.
Axel.
Yes. Yeah.
Coming in.
Very cool.
Exactly. Like, just be aware of your surroundings when you're doing the axles.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. We have the one and only.
Oh, jeez.
You act as if
I know.
you haven't done this before.
No, piece cake.
Yeah, exactly. We've got Heather Estus on with us today, and you got a guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I did. I brought with me as the wonderful and one and only as well, Catherine Conan, who is the executive director. Is that the title,
Yes,
right?
yep.
Executive director of the Gianforte Family Foundation. So I wanted to, because she's here in town for Shadow Mountain, the conference, and
Still can't believe you drove from Bozeman.
yeah, she just got
I
here.
did, and I don't recommend it.
Yeah, don't. We all recommend stay home if you can. Do not get on the roads.
It was
yes, yeah.
Like, jeez.
Yeah, so we are excited because this is a partner for the Worthy Ranch and has recently gifted a $10,000 grant for us to continue and expand our programs and pilot them, which is amazing. So they're a big part of our strategic planning process here locally. And they've just been amazing. They do a lot of support for nonprofits as well. One of my best takeaways was attending the executive director training. So they do a development training and executive director training once a year for the organizations that they support. And that's a super cool room to be in because you're amongst your peers. And they do a lot of training, teaching about nonprofit leadership, executive director challenges, from finances to fundraising, right? It's a great room to be in. And I think smart on Gianforte Family Foundation part because
Strategic.
it's very strategic, right? To teach their nonprofits how to manage the most efficient, effective nonprofit strategy. So I think
I hope you can come this year.
I am. It's on the calendar already.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. It's
I'm
on the
coming.
air, so it's official. She's
Yes,
coming.
yes, I am coming. I'm excited about that. There's so many things that are happening this year, but very, very excited. We just met with the architects. I mentioned this to Leah this morning. We just met with the architects, and they're the same architects that are doing the Eagle Seeker Center. So they're Native American, culturally aware, and so they're going to be doing the renderings for the ranch, and we're so excited. Like, yeah,
Awesome.
it is awesome. You guys, when you see this, you're going to be like, yeah, everybody's going to be like, I want to go there. Like, the vision is finally coming together, and so looking at like what that looks like, not only just for survivors of human trafficking, but for Billings in general. I mean, the Worthy Ranch is a complete healing center. And when it's not utilizing that program during the summer, there's so many different other income streams. We have a greenhouse. We're going to do.
That's what I want to be involved.
We'll have a professional. Yeah, we're going to have the first really professional recording studio there. So,
I want to be involved.
yeah. My friend, so I just secured my friend. She ran the studio in New York. She was recruited by the Maloofs in Vegas to do the Palm Studio. She's worked with like Michael Jackson, Celine Dion. I mean, like you name it, the Fugees, like Pitbull. I mean, so when people would stay at the Palms, they would have an amazing opportunity to record in this studio, and then they would try out to try out the songs in the clubs and everything. So she's just amazing. And I didn't know, I asked her, I said, hey, would you be interested in helping us like put together this studio, and telling her what we're doing. I'm like, it's going to be, like musician retreats too, but also like if our survivor wants to go in and do poetry or, just music therapy as well. So I found out that she did like a fundraiser with Robert De Niro for Nelson Mandela. And like she worked on a whole committee for Indigenous women. Like I was just like, oh, I didn't even know that about you. Like,
Nice.
yeah. So that's just, there's so many components, but really it is a healing center, and I mean we'll have a full commercial kitchen, a restaurant, again part of the job development, but also that will be a working restaurant that people can come to like 4 nights a week, like just super cool stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. Do we
Event
have,
center.
Do we have a location already?
Yeah, no, I can't. It's
Okay,
secret.
okay,
It's
see?
secret. Yeah.
Secret still.
Well,
it's secret.
I will say this: it's going to be within an hour of Billings, right? So we want to make sure that we make it easier for the collaborative organizations that we're working with to get survivors there. Try, and because healthcare, that it's just so we'll be not too far away, but yes.
So like off air, will you tell me?
Yeah, so there's like there's like 3 or 4 things happening with that. So but you will be the first to know when we make our announcement.
She says that.
Well, and we just did our strategic planning process, and the board is like their thing is we're going to break ground this year, like by the end of 2025. Wow. Yeah, so we're starting a campaign. Yep, we're going to be. And we have, I have these amazing donors that have been kind of waiting in the wings and in development, you have to have everything together and you have to know when it's the right time. Yeah.
Process that a lot of times people don't realize.
Oh my gosh.
Especially when it comes to kind of what you work with, Catherine, is like laying the groundwork for a nonprofit to be successful, from the executive planning, from how to find the funding, from the different grants that are available for different organizations. Like, it's not just like, I want a nonprofit,
right?
Because I believe in this.
Yeah,
it starts that way sometimes.
Yeah,
and then there's an awakening.
Yeah, yes. It is no small feat. I feel like the cool thing is I've got to raise millions of dollars for other organizations, and now it's coming back full circle where I can. But it is kind of scary, like you do a lot of things for other people, and then when it's for yourself, it's a whole nother ballgame, right? Like, so it's interesting. But I'm very grateful that Catherine could be here today, and she has amazing ideas through the foundation, but also understanding of what is happening here with human trafficking in Montana and why they support it. I'm sure she can share, some of the numbers that she brought with her and stuff, but it is, it's real and it's in her backyard. And that's why the Worthy Ranch will exist and other organizations too, and why Gianforte family puts it a priority in their giving strategy too. Yeah.
See, that's like a perfect segue. She's such a professional. She's done this before.
I mean,
So, okay, before we dive into numbers and whatnot, give us a little bit of background, if you will, Catherine, in why you do what you do.
Yeah.
Like, where does your passion for this come from?
Yeah.
It's like my favorite thing. I know it's deep, and it's like, hey.
I'd love to. Well, personally, I do it because I believe in what the foundation is supporting, and the Gianforte family sees themselves as just a way to support Montana and make it stronger with the resources they have, and the things that they care about are things I care about. So that aligns very well. The foundation's been around for over 20 years. I think a lot of people didn't know that. And in that time period has given away over $130 million. What? Most of that in Montana.
That was going to be my question. Like, okay, so like how much of that is mostly Montana? That's incredible.
Yeah. So just last year, just in 2024, we gave away almost 11.4 million. 90% of that was in Montana.
Nice.
Like maybe more than 90. I have to double check. But
that's amazing.
And that's just all of our giving. And so, of course, trafficking is a portion of that. We're looking at what are the things that families are struggling with that are keeping them from being whole and strong. And, you've got substance abuse and single parent families and just a lot of things out there that some of which can be prevented, and we want to come alongside families and help them heal from trauma that they have and prevent future trauma. Yeah. And there's several ways that we're doing that related to trafficking specifically.
So January.
Yeah. So January, I have to say January is Human Trafficking Awareness / Prevention Month, depending on what organization you're talking to.
That was a really, really long title when you sent it to me. And I was like, okay.
And I think the federal agencies, they both have campaigns throughout January, where Blue is one. And so that this month is really to bring awareness to human trafficking, but also with awareness comes prevention, right? So, and what are the strategies that organizations are doing to prevent human trafficking? And so I think it's a great it's a great way to talk about a topic that people usually don't want to talk about or, shy away from.
One of those topics that we like, we know it exists, but we're not going to open that door.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about it around the, dinner table.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, my survivors that, the leader survivors that I work with, they would say it's, human trafficking awareness every month. Like, they're like,
sure.
and I get that. But it is a great way for us to do that and create awareness. I think the Worthy Ranch was, successful yesterday in just really doing the, Tie Blue for Truth, which is, billing stand against human trafficking in a way it's beautiful, actually. We took ribbons and we tied them in front of the Billings Depot because they were the first one to say yes. And if you go down on Montana, you're going to start to see more businesses. We just Butcher Block disagreed to do, and they're very resistant to things like this, but they're, they have beautiful white aspen trees. And so we're going to do some ribbon tying there. Plus there's no leaves on the trees and they've, so it looks pretty. There's different blue ribbons, and it's actually a very cultural thing too, is to tie ribbons that are symbolic. And so that ties back to our native culture and different cultures that did that as well to signify significance in regards to what they were doing and bringing awareness to different things. So
I love that.
Yeah. And people can participate, there at the depot. We have a bowl of ribbons there. They can go pick up and tie ribbons there. They can do their own, ribbon tying in front of their businesses or their homes. And we encourage them, do that. Take a picture and tag us. We want to see this. And there is QR codes in the ones in front of Billings that lead to the worthyranch.org, which our website and explains a lot of more in-depth what is, January, what is the month, what are the things they can do, the phone numbers, if they're, requesting help or if they see something. So all of that information is on those QR codes too. Yeah. Yeah. And doing this every day. I mean, I think in the last few hours, we've had 3 or 4 other businesses on Montana. So hopefully we can turn the whole Montana.
Let's do the entire Montana Avenue. Come on.
Yeah. And we love that it's going to be something that the Worthy Ranch can partner with the other organizations that we collaborate with and do it every year. Right? Yeah. And it's easy. Something you can do with your family, something that's fun. And like I said, it's a lighter way to bring light to a darker subject. Right?
Yeah.
Speaking of human trafficking, so obviously both of you partner with organizations, individuals, whether they're survivors, whether they had family members, and organizations that help support them as well. So what is that? And this might be a Catherine question. What does that look like in Montana right now? What? Not specific numbers, but just what does that look like for us?
Yeah, kind of the big picture.
Yeah.
Well, I can talk about some of the groups that we work with because they work the whole gamut.
And you're working across Montana too.
All around the state. Yep. So starting with prevention, I know that several organizations do education in the schools about the signs of trafficking with youth. Yeah. So not only to protect yourself, but to recognize if you have a friend who might be involved in it and not even be aware of it. I think that's a big thing. Most traffickers would say they didn't know they were being trafficked at the time. So that's one example of kind of the prevention aspect. We also work with groups that train and work with law enforcement and support them in finding traffickers and arresting them ideally. And then, of course, groups that provide kind of that emergency shelter aspect of it. So first of all, some groups that help find women who are being trafficked and then provide them with emergency shelter, all the way to what Heather does with Worthy Ranch of kind of that post-emergency phase where they're kind of getting their feet back under them. They're maybe reuniting with family, but either way they're healing in a really holistic way. It's not just about providing a roof over their head and a bed to sleep in, because maybe they had that before, right? But it means something completely different when it's a safe place. All the way to emotional and then even spiritual healing. I think it needs to be a full 360.
Yeah. And this is an issue that is statewide for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's just in Billings or just in Bozeman
Right.
or just in Missouri. It is across the state that we are dealing with this, whether we know it or not.
Yeah, and it does happen. I mean, people think, the cities are probably the hub, right? And they are, but it happens rurally. And it's dominant there too. So it's not just, the big cities where we have a lot of people. It's actually probably more common in rural areas than it is in big cities. So it's happening everywhere here.
Yeah. So, okay. So obviously Gianforte Foundation, you're working with helping a lot of times with the funding and the training for the organizations. And then Heather, you're working with the actual individuals.
Yeah. So we've been serving survivors now for 10 years with, really piloting and building the curriculum, the worthiness formula. And then of course, equine therapy and those things as well. And we I talked about this morning, like the impact that helping and healing one survivor makes. When we talk about people like, well, how many people are you helping? The trauma that survivors go through is so complex that it takes a lot of time and energy in that healing process. We say it's a lifetime of healing. But the impact of helping one survivor saves your community hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? In healthcare, in services. But then if you are helping them to really discover their divine purpose, their gifts, their talents, then guess what? Then they're putting back into the community, right? They're sharing their gifts and talents. Yes. Versus just being on services or, the need for healthcare, stuff like that. So yes, it's the one person, but that one person, look at Gandhi, look at the people that have changed the world, right? It was one person. So, that's really, we work with 6 to 10 survivors at a time at the most. And it also is because it's a very intense healing process. And so they need the one-on-one time. They need the attention and intention, right? So working with them like that and through that is significant versus being able to, provide hundreds of survivors. I hope that someday we will, but in the meantime, I just want people understand the importance of working with one survivor at a time, or 10 survivors, that it is, and what the impact of those 10 survivors will have. Most of them really want to get back into sharing their story, helping people become aware, helping other survivors. So there is a huge ripple effect. And some of our survivor leaders have done that, and they're training law enforcement, training hospitals on what to look for, how to be trauma informed. So there is that, helping one person does make a huge impact.
Well, and I think there's something to be said too about there's something about wanting to tell your story and wanting to bring awareness to your story. Yeah. But it's a totally different thing once you're actually telling that story. Yeah. The want and the reality sometimes don't necessarily mix. You can have the passion to want to share your story, but
you have to be ready for that.
You're ready, until you've done the work, until you've healed, you might think that you're ready to tell your story, but you're not.
Yeah, and we do have a specific program. That's how we've met many of our leaders. I worked with a speaking trainer out of Las Vegas who was a survivor, and she teaches survivors that process, because what happens is if they're not ready, they get re-triggered, because your mind doesn't know the difference. When you're telling your story, it goes right back to those emotions and those feelings, and you're bringing that all up. So if you're not ready and don't have the healing tools there, then it could get really bad. And so really helping them learn how and when it is time, if they even want to. And there's survivors who never want to talk about it for the rest of their life, and that's totally fine. But the ones that do, it is an in-depth process of being ready and going through that healing so that they can do it, and it's not re-triggering them every time they tell their story, and in a way that's trauma-informed for the audience as well, whoever they're speaking
absolutely.
To. Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
It's a heavy topic, but it's something that you have to be willing to talk about. Yeah. Otherwise nothing changes. Nothing happens.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think there's something too, Heather, that you probably do right at Worthing Ranch, and that is helping these survivors see that they are loved for who they are, not because of what's happened to them, that doesn't define them. But just because of who they are, they deserve to be loved and cared for, no matter what. And I think once people can grasp that, even if they go back and forth struggling with it mentally, it just offers so much hope.
Yes. So that's you just perfectly described the worthiness formula.
I was just
really, it's like, that was, yeah. So that
we
is,
talked before.
yeah.
We didn't.
We planned everything.
Yeah. Well, the curriculum is, understanding what it means to be worthy, where that comes from. And the reality is that regardless what happened to you in your past or what you do in the future, your worth never changes, right? Mm-hmm. It's the belief about your worth that changes. So how do we get you back to believing that you're 100% worthy of everything this world has to offer? Mm-hmm. And that's really stepping into your authentic self, right? And learning how to make decisions based on who you are, what your individual core values are, what your gifts are, what your talents are, regardless of what has happened to you, mm-hmm. what people tell you, what influences you have, but really knowing yourself so well and listening to that intuition, Holy Spirit, whatever you call that for you, and aligning those two things. And as you start to do that, and that's what we teach survivors, what are your core values? And now we can make decisions based on those. Listen to your intuition. And when they start to do that, the confidence, the self-esteem, the self-worth starts to just shine through them, because that's who they're meant to be, right? Mm-hmm. And so how do we get back to becoming more of themselves?
And with practice, it gets easier.
Yes, because you do it.
You have to practice.
Yes. And I tell them, anybody can look back at their life and look at a decision that was really hard, and it may have, been really difficult, but probably the best decision they ever made in their life. Those are the times they were being 100% their authentic self. Now, how do we do that every single time? Think about the choices we make every day, right? That's what your choices make your life. And so how do we start making the life that you deserve to live? And it has to do with who you are, the gifts you have, the talents, all of those things.
And the support.
Yeah, so that's it. So there you go. See, she just let it right. So the last part of it is the community. How are you making decisions with the people that you surround yourself with? How are you creating a community where now you see your own value, you can see the value in others, right? And then how do you return that favor and continue to grow and create healthy boundaries in your community, right? If there's boundaries around relationships, what does that look like for you? But still remaining your authentic self, So
that's something that I have said for years when it comes to, so I'm the oldest of 7 children. And so as the oldest, you're doing things that haven't necessarily been done before, and then telling your siblings, don't do that. Mm-hmm. I did that. It was the wrong thing to do. Do something different. But one of the things that I go back to, so my youngest brothers are 17, they're twins. They are seniors in high school, looking at college. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
I hate it. Yeah. But that being said, I'm always telling them, surround yourself with the people that make you feel good as a person, that push you to be better.
Challenge you a little bit.
Challenge you a little bit. And then also surround yourself with people that you want to be like.
Admire. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. The people that, whether it's because of their confidence, whether it's their worth, that they feel their own self-worth, whether it's their motivation, their drive, surround yourself with the people that you want, the people you want to be like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not necessarily the people that make you depressed or make you anxious or are very self-absorbed. Surround yourself with more.
Right. I do think that, I'm biased to self-worth, but I do believe it's the foundation, the beginning point of everything. I'll say, me and Catherine weren't comparing diaper brands when we were babies, right? We weren't hey, I got Huggies, I got Pampers, right? No, we learned that stuff, right? But when we wanted something, what did we do? We cried, we asked for it, right? And so we already innately knew our value and our worth, but it wasn't until trauma, influence, all the things, culture, your parents, family, everything comes into place, and it starts to change. You're oh, I'm not supposed to do that. Oh, I'm supposed to do this. So how do we get back to that? It's funny. So I was doing a workshop with the veterans the other day on the worthiness formula. We're doing the Worthy Life Roadmap, and I tell them, this is a magic piece of paper. Anything you write on it can come true, right? And it was for the family. So there was younger kids in there, right? And so we were going around the room, and I was asking him, so what did you put on your, what is it that you want to accomplish in 3 months? Because it's 3 months, 1 year, 5 years, lifetime, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just so interesting. So when I get to the kids, right, the one girl, she's $1 trillion. And I was yes. They have they don't even think how is that going to happen?
Right.
No, they're just like, this is what I want.
And I'm
There's
like,
no reality check.
right. And there is no, like, I mean, they just have no those boundaries yet, right? So so it's perfect because that's like exactly what is the mindset we want to have, is that we don't have to figure out the how, right? We just have to be ourselves, and those things will happen. If they're meant to happen, they'll happen. And I just love kids because, I mean, everybody was like, and I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if she wins the lottery or something happens, because
she knows what she wants.
there's no, right, there's no restrictions on that thought process yet, right? So it blows my mind, literally.
Oh, I love it. I just love kids. Because
Yes.
what comes out of their mouth, and you're like, oh, I didn't think about that, but I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, Billings, we've got to take a quick break. We will be right back. We've got some music coming your way.
Awesome. I do want to talk about, like, Catherine, maybe if you have this, is like what you see from the funding perspective, what the needs are with human trafficking, like what do you see as the biggest needs for Montana right now to help the overall, right? All the different, because we all do something different, right? We all have a different niche in that journey for the survivor. So I would love to, if you have that information, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so let me just make sure I understand. So
Yeah.
I can certainly talk about where the issue more, right?
Yeah.
Like the rescue missions that we support,
Yes.
which are not
Right, they're not human trafficking
organizations, but they're
Yes.
seeing women. The pregnancy care centers are seeing women coming
That's
in.
important. Yes, I do want to. That would be
So
great.
I think I'd like to touch on that as far as the needs. I mean, more support for these organizations, and then I think just more awareness amongst broader community people. Like, does your average person stopping at a gas station know how to recognize trafficking that might be happening there? And what do they do if that happens? And maybe I couldn't really tell them what to do. Call the police, right? But I'm sure there's more specific things that maybe you know more about.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think that, I did talk about that this morning a little bit, like not to ever interfere or interact with a situation that you think where there might, just report it. Just call, if you don't know the number, call 911. Like, you just report it, because they'll get the right person. They'll have, what I'm saying? You don't have to interfere. I mean, we, as humans, we like have this drive to want to help and save the day.
Yes.
Right? Like,
there's an injustice. We're gonna make it
Injustice hero complex.
Right. So yes, definitely that. I'm just like talked about my doctor who had a victim in her office, and she was trying to tell her staff, nobody believed her. Like her nurses didn't believe her, and I think there's some cultural awareness there, right? That's the Montana thing. Like, people keep to themselves. They don't want to interfere in anybody's business, and there's the pros and cons to that, right? It's respected, and what's happening over there is none of my business, and what's happening in that, so.
It's also, so I had a, like my annual doctor appointment, right? And was going in to get my birth control swapped and all of the fun stuff, right? And I am in a committed relationship that is healthy and strong and secure, right? And so this was the first time, and we're engaged, and I'm like, okay, let's update the info.
Yeah.
Now you're my emergency contact. And so I brought him with me.
Yeah.
Through the process. And I left the first appointment, and I was just like, this was weird. Because I had brought him with me to swap everything, and also I just don't handle pain and doctors and needles well.
Yeah.
And give him control over your information a little bit.
Yeah.
And
my doctor
red flagged.
And I was just like, this is just so interesting. So not even necessarily that it is that we have to, as individuals, know human trafficking is happening and how to recognize those signs, but then also to, on the other side, be like, I am not in this situation. Yeah. And I can tell you I'm not in this situation confidently.
Yeah.
It was a weird experience for me.
Right, yeah. Well, because that shows that the physician, whoever you're working with, was trauma-informed.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No,
so they're like, they're paying attention.
Like, this is so interesting. I've never experienced this before.
Yeah. So that's obviously a totally different experience than my doctor, who, had the person and tried to share and was just like, okay, like, not getting any support. So yeah, I think people are coming, along slowly, on Montana time. So that's
that's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, it was a very eye-opening experience for me, because I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Well,
also, I have a duty to say, no, I'm not in that situation.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Like I said, like that's huge that they recognize that, and they're trained to notice things like that versus not being like that.
Or just assuming like whatever.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
welcome. Let's see here. Welcome back, Billings, to Adventures in Heels with Leah and Mitch and Heather and Catherine. We've got the crew, the Friday crew, the ice skating pros.
Yeah, because we made it here, right?
We all made it here.
Catherine from Bozeman, which is a feat, I'm sure.
So how long did it take?
3 hours,
You know,
she said.
3 hours.
Yeah.
So it could have been worse.
I was I would have expected it to be longer, knowing what the roads were like in Billings this morning when I was driving.
Yeah.
So this is not an official road report, but it was pretty good from Bozeman to Columbus, and then it was an ice skating rink.
That makes sense.
So you went from 75 to
That's so
25
scary.
just immediately. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and shortly after you passed through, they did close down for a while.
Apparently, yeah.
That section.
Well, probably because of all this ice skating that was
It
happening.
was, yeah, there were cars all over. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so please take your time out there, folks.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
If you don't have to, don't go west.
This is
Right.
a great time to be on Montana time,
Yeah.
right?
Montana time. It takes us a little longer sometimes.
Yes.
A little longer. Hence one of the topics that we're talking about.
Yeah.
January, Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month.
Yeah.
Such a mouthful.
Yes,
We
it is.
acronym-
If you didn't know this, true blue is true blue, and so it's tied to truth, right? And so that's why the blue was picked. Like if you sign your letters, or they used to have you only sign in blue because blue meant your yes, yes. Yes,
Not a
so
photocopy.
yeah, exactly, and so that it was real, authentic, and so even with their event yesterday was tie for truth, and that's what is really happening. What's all of the human trafficking is based on deception, right? Literally, coercion is what happens. For a trafficker has to deceive, right, coerce another person into doing something that is not the truth, right? And so focusing on blue being true, right, is probably one of the best colors that they could have picked for the campaign. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I've learned something new.
Yeah.
I'm going to only buy blue pens from now on.
Right. Yeah.
You don't know why, but this means something. And
Right.
let me tell you about it.
Right.
But
Exactly.
I also love stuff like that. That's an easy way of starting a conversation that can be hard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's a approachable way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Billings
So-
buy blue pens.
That's
When
right.
people ask you why, now
You
you
see,
know.
true blue. There's
True
something.
blue.
Yeah. Something to that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we have Heather Estus here, the Worthy Ranch Worthiness Formula.
Yeah.
All of the things. She's incredible.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
All of the stuff. And then we also have Catherine here
Yes.
from the Gianforte Foundation. We're talking, so you just recently gave a grant to the Worthy Ranch to help them with their mission to help traffickers to bring
Trafficking
that
survivors.
awareness.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
My gosh,
Yes.
yeah, trafficking survivors.
That's okay. It happens.
We know what you mean.
We know what you mean. Yes.
But to be able to push that forward into that next step, you also work with a lot of, across the state, a lot of other organizations, groups, whether they're nonprofits. One of the ones I wanted to touch on, though, is that you brought up over the break some of the missions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So homeless shelters, rescue missions around the state, they're obviously working with homeless individuals, but it ends up that they're seeing more and more women, primarily women, who are being trafficked. And so they're understanding, how do we help these women? And this is a unique situation, right? These women are here for much more complex reasons than your typical homeless individual. So we're just seeing how they're looking for ways to get trained and to coordinate with groups like the Worthy Ranch or other groups that work specifically with survivors to help the people that they're helping
To deal with those complex issues. Beyond the necessities, beyond shelter and food.
Yeah.
Yes.
the emotions.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then where, if you're homeless, you can just put someone in a place eventually, right? Like you help them get the skills they need and their wraparound services to thrive on their own. But when there's the trafficking background, that's a whole different situation. You don't just stick them in a hotel room or a single apartment and hope they do okay. Yeah. That's true with many homeless individuals in general, but it's just a problem that isn't limited into organizations that are specifically working with survivors. It's really across the board, even pregnancy care centers around the state. Women
if you didn't bring it up, I was going to bring that one back.
Yeah, women are coming in with potential pregnancies, and the care centers are understanding that we need to be able to recognize where did this pregnancy come from, and how can we help these women in the safest way possible for them, and really help them thrive.
Yeah,
with what they're doing.
It is, and there's a so this last year, so we work closely also with the Yellowstone Human Trafficking Task Force, and that there's a tough job they have in creating advocacy, the legislation, the laws around human trafficking. They've done some amazing things that the rest of the country has really admired about Montana, and the laws that they're getting passed here. In addition to that, it's just. Even like the harsh environment. So like since I've been here, we've gone through 2 FBI agents, that it's such a tough environment to be in, and understanding that. So.
Well, and I would say that part of that is due to our ruralness.
Yeah.
Montana is,
and the reservations and,
but we have there's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
And we have the big cities. We have Billings and Bozeman and Missoula and Helena and Butte and Great Falls. But
they're not very big cities.
They're not big cities in comparison.
Right.
But the amount of rural communities.
Yeah.
And
limited resources.
Yeah, both of you brought up hey, a lot of times this is happening more in the rural communities than what we see in the city. Yeah. And so it makes sense that some of these people coming in, law enforcement, FBI coming in and being like, how are you doing this in a state that's this big, that's this spread out?
Right, there's not enough. Right, they just don't have enough support. Mm-hmm. The Yellowstone Human Trafficking Task Force recently. So we also all of the organizations like Gianforte Family Foundation supports. We all try to collaborate and work together because we all do something different. So if there's a need, then we call around and we're like, can anybody help? Or does
we can figure this out.
Yeah, and so I got a call from Penny and she was saying we have a survivor that only speaks Spanish. They were from Ecuador, I believe, if I'm thinking right. And she knew about Latinas in Montana, which was an organization I started here as well to help Latinas here and just culturally again be amongst your peers. But she knew there's probably someone that speaks Spanish, right? I don't speak fluent, and we actually were able to provide a volunteer, and this survivor was. When we say human trafficking, it was labor trafficking and also sex trafficking. And she just wanted to go back home to her family in her own country. And she was pregnant. Now we have a person that's from out of the country that's been trafficked here. It lands in Montana, trying to get back home, has no ID, right? No papers, nothing.
Language barrier,
right. And so it just happened that we had a volunteer who was also speaks fluent Spanish, but had worked at TSA. So, all of the things kind of lined up. And she was able to take and navigate bringing this survivor back home. It just things like that. That's not in our mission, right? That's not, but it just, you never know how you can help based on what skills or resources you have available to you. Going back to what Kath was saying is about pregnant. She's pregnant by a trafficker or by what they call John, right? Or who knows? And she just wants to go back home to her family, right? She probably was talked out of leaving because she was promised something, lied to, right?
The deception.
Right. And so those are awesome success stories that we get to talk about too. Those things happen as well, and cross boundaries. And like I said, they come here from everywhere, not just Montana, but.
Well, and that also brings forward that awareness aspect that we were talking about, where if you're aware of what is happening in your community, And I think that this is something that we're getting better at.
Yes.
I say getting better.
Yeah. It's becoming more common to understand what human trafficking is, yes.
Well, that, and then also kind of where I was going to go is, so one of the things that I think came out of the pandemic that I say is a good thing is we really got to see what disconnection looks like.
Yeah.
And we got to see our need, our desire for connection come forward. Yeah. And one of the things I think that was a good thing that came out of this is that sense of community. You had, all of a sudden you were like, where's my community?
Yeah, where are my people?
Where are my people?
Right.
Yeah.
And so that reconnection of understanding, like, who are your neighbors?
Yeah, right.
You know, who is like 2 doors down from you versus 1 door down from you? Who is the person? Do you go to the same gas station? We brought up gas station. Do you go to the same gas station?
Yeah,
because we're creatures of habit. Have you said hi to them?
Yeah.
Have you like interacted with that attendant as a person and not just as like, you know, a computer?
Right.
Like all of those things that we got so much more connected with.
Yeah, I think we took it for granted, right?
We did, yeah. And so now we had that next level of, okay, now that we are a little more connected, what are some ways that now we can get involved? What can we actually notice? What can we do to keep that community that now we've started to foster safer, better, like thriving?
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things that it sounds like the Gianforte Family Foundation is really helping. Because you said, how much money have you guys been giving away? I mean,
it's been $130 million since 2004, but last year it was almost 11.4 million.
Wow.
Primarily in Montana.
Yep.
Not all, but primarily.
Right. Yeah. Even related to trafficking in Montana since 2020, it's been about 1.2 million that we've given to organizations. Nice. But you're talking about, first of all, the partnerships that Heather was talking about. So many of these organizations are interconnected and starting to work together, helping victims, which is huge. And so we're honored to be able to support all of them, coming from all angles. But then the awareness, you're talking about the isolation that comes from COVID and how people are starting to recognize that and kind of fight back against it now. But some of it is even just not just your neighbors, but strangers. You know, if you might see something at a gas station that looks suspicious, right? Do you know how to recognize the signs of someone that's being trafficked? And if so, what do you do about that? I mean, that's just human courtesy.
Yeah.
I mean, to put a really light word on it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a way that people can continue to get involved, is just to be aware and to be brave enough to do what you need to do when you see those warning signs.
There is and we're working on a resource page right now, but there is Safe House Project, which is an organization that works with lots of survivor serving organizations around the country and is led by survivors. One of the things that they created was the On Watch training program. And so like for our board, that's one of the first things we require is they do the On Watch training, and that anybody can go. So if you go to safehouseproject.org, or On Watch training, it's a video series, but it does just exactly what Catherine was saying. It shows you what it looks like and what to do, right? And how to report, what numbers to call, all the things. Even for kids. I mean, there's even videos there for kids to understand, because sometimes that happens in our schools, right? And we don't know, and kids are like trying to tell or explain to their parents, I think something's going on with my friend, but
well, and
what does it look like?
Perceptive.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So,
but they don't always know it's wrong.
Right.
Or how to communicate that to.
Or report or talk to somebody about it. So I would highly recommend, checking out that On Watch training program. It's super simple and easy for anybody to do. It's free, doesn't cost anything, but it will help people, again, become more aware and
to create those stronger communities.
I would love to, because I know a lot of your listeners are a lot of different nonprofits, and Gianforte Family Foundation supports, mainly in Montana, but it must be difficult to, decide, right? Like you have to decide on who to give the money to, and maybe, sharing some tips on organizations that are either serving survivors or are in alignment with the Gianforte Family Foundation. What kind of tips could you offer to nonprofits that are looking to get funding or support from, and I mean, I could go on and on, but I think hearing from the
totally
horse's mouth literally
Yeah.
would be.
I can talk about what we look for. And
Yeah,
the
that'd be
beautiful
great.
thing about the philanthropic space is you have people with different values all across the board that want to support organizations.
Yes.
So if we're not a fit, there probably is another organization somewhere that is for funding. But what we look for is organizations that, first of all, we usually don't fund brand new projects, at least not at a high level. So we want there to be a little bit of a track record and impact shown from what they're doing. Again, working in Montana is really, really key. Most of your listeners, I'm sure, will understand that part, so that's not an issue. But really, work that is helping families thrive and overcome trauma that they have. So we work with groups that are strengthening marriages, getting right to the root. I mean, if you're talking about prevention, it's kind of the chicken and egg, right?
Yeah.
Healthy childhood and healthy marriage, and they interact with each other so much. But organizations that are working to keep families together when possible, or provide safe families for kids when that's not possible. And we do fund a lot of faith-based organizations. Not exclusively, but it's a niche that we found we can fill because a lot of other groups don't. But what we've seen, in addition to our personal viewpoint, is we've seen that when they're run well, there's that spiritual component that adds another layer of healing. So whatever that looks like for us, we found that faith-based organizations can be very, very effective in more long-term healing. So those are the things we look for. We have a website, and we are always happy to talk to people who have any thoughts of, am I a fit? Here's what I'm doing. We'll talk to you. We'll laugh with you. We'll give you an honest answer. And either way, we wish them well in what they're doing.
And they probably have resources that they know about that maybe we're not a fit, but you should definitely talk to this foundation, or, because they're just like we run in the same circles, they run in the same circles of their peers. And so it never hurts to reach out and call them and talk to them about it. So make the call.
Yes.
So I have a question because my show's all about hard questions, and I like the hard questions.
I love it.
Both of you brought up, we have a lot of amazing nonprofits. I am part of several where I'm like, Montana's pretty lucky. We have some nonprofits, some organizations that really, they are making differences every day. They are pushing that boundary of like, how can we do more? How much more can we do? Like the sky is the limit. It's not this very small, like, here's the ceiling and we're only going to go to the ceiling. They are breaking ceilings. They are moving past that. But
there's the B question, the B word.
This is the B word. That also leads into that deception of there are also groups that pop up that look really good from the outside. That don't necessarily look so good from the in depth. What are some ways that people can be smart also about who they're giving to?
Absolutely.
What are the things to look for? Because it's hard. We have great ones. There's always going to be a few that aren't.
Sure.
I'll let Catherine see, and then I'll add whatever, because she probably has a lot of
I
tips
was like,
on this.
How much time do
we have?
Well, the show goes till 1.
It's
so
good.
It's
just good. Yes.
Right. Someone will bring us lunch, right?
Perfect.
No, that is a really, really good question. So there's some just basic kind of black and white things, like looking at a nonprofit's tax forms, right? Seeing what you're giving to. And there's lots of questions on that form, that 990, that show things about their board governance. So if someone really wants to dig into the numbers,
if that's their personality,
like this or that, which it's mine.
Most funders are like that. They'll look up your 990s in a heartbeat.
And they're like, they cross their I's and dot their T's.
Right,
yes,
exactly. So that gives you sort of a black and white picture. But we personally, we love to form relationships with the partners that we give to, and Heather can attest to that. And that's one of the things I love about the training programs we offer, is because we're forcing them to hang out with us, for 2 to 3 days in one room to talk about all these things about running a nonprofit and eat meals with us and listen to my terrible playlist in the background of the lunch.
I love it. Now I want to know what you listen to.
I'll tell you later. So it's just really important for us to build those relationships, and that's how you get to know people, and you get to know the leadership, and you say, oh, I know this person.
Yeah.
I trust this person with what they're doing. I think if you don't do that, even at huge multi-million-dollar nonprofit organizations, there's always somebody there that you can build a relationship with and get to know what's the heart of this organization.
Yep.
Is it something that I feel good about? Do I see this track record? Another thing we look at of what they've done and that they're actually doing work. And you can always ask them for specific questions, right? You know, like, I see you got this grant for this. How did you spend that money? And what came from it? You know, you can get into that too, but we're just really relational. That's one of our core values is being relational with our partners.
That's smart. Yeah. That was great because she had really two main components, which is like the finances, like you're literally looking at, and you can go, I think it's candid.org, and look up any nonprofit status. And their 990s, you know, like what is it, how much have they brought in, what's who their leadership is. Candid does a very good job. It used to be GuideStar. Yeah. So that was like the thing. If you had to have a GuideStar account, because they pull everything from the IRS. So they'll pull all the numbers. And the nonprofits go through the process of putting their information, their mission, you know, what their programs are, even down to the dynamics of the, you know, the background, the ethnicity, the diversity of the organization. So if those things are important to you, which brings me to like one of the things I tell people right away is you look at what you're passionate about, like what do you love? And, you know, a lot of times I'll get asked for like board leadership or things like that, or to be on the fundraising committee. And I'm like, I'm like, listen, I do love fundraising. But I do that 40 hours a day. I mean, a week. And so like, and more.
There's not 40 hours
right.
a day, but
It feels like it. It feels like it. Sometimes it feels like that. But the last thing I want to do is do fundraising for, and you know, like, so, but I have other gifts and talents, right? So think through first, like, what are the things that align you with an organization versus, you know, and people have different philanthropic motives, right? So they're all different. There's people that are very social and they like to be at the events and like to do those things. There's people that give because it's a part of their heritage. Like this is how they grew up. Their parents did it. Their grandparents did it, you know. You know, there's people that want to be very humble in their giving and they choose not to be recognized. And so they're going to look at, is this organization going to honor that, you know? So just look at where your philanthropic heart is and how does it align with the organization first, and then you can start to dive into, you know, like the numbers and things like that, but how you feel about it. But it's very simple to find out. I mean, even like looking at testimonials on their website, you know, a lot of the best organizations I've seen have a like one-page website. Very direct, it's clear, and you know what I'm saying, it's not fancy, you know, but
the info is there.
Yeah, because you know what, they're busy doing the work. Like they know that's a necessary thing, and it's very clear and concise. But they're out there doing the mission, and so I think just really evaluating, like if you were interviewing somebody for a job, right? If you're, you know, that's the same thing you would do for working and giving, volunteering with an organization, is you want to interview with them. You want to build relationship with them, you know, how welcome. And I mean, if inclusivity and diversity is a big deal to you, what are their policies about diversity, inclusivity? And is it just something they put on the website, or are they really living that, right? So I think first knowing your own philanthropic values and how that aligns with the mission that you may be looking at to give. You know, I grew up like donating blood because my dad donated blood, right? And no, there's no irony that the first organization I worked for was Red Cross, right? I don't know how that happened, but it was funny, right?
Because you know things happen that you don't realize the stars are aligning.
Yeah, so I do believe, you know, I think Picasso said is that, you know, the life's purpose is you build your gifts and talents the first part of your life, and the rest of the part of your life, you give them away, right? That may look like time. That may look like money. That may look like donating art, whatever it looks like for you. It doesn't have to be through a nonprofit either. It could be like, you know, I'm sending flowers to somebody that's in the hospital, you know, so I think we, you know, sometimes forget there's so many ways to be philanthropic. It doesn't necessarily have to be through a foundation. It could be making salsa for your neighbor who's sick or something, you know, like, right.
That's where she goes.
Yeah.
I feel like she's maybe done that a few times.
Yes, I have. And I think that what people don't, other thing is like people ask me like, how do you ask people for money? I never asked people for money.
That's my favorite thing about it.
Yeah, I have
like,
never.
Make a relationship.
Yeah, I I only work for organizations that I truly believe are doing the mission, and I'm aligned with that. And at the end of the day, I'm learning the mission. Like, my kids grew up in the Boys and Girls Club. I was there for 8 years. I saw how that mission impacted my children, but also their friends, right? So I could speak to that authentically, right? I could tell the stories. And so usually if I'm sitting with somebody and I'm talking about the mission and telling them a story, at the end of the conversation, I'm not asking anything. They're asking me, how do I do that? How do I get involved?
How do I do?
Right. And there's been many times where I've been sitting with, $1 million donors, and I'm sitting there because somebody's friend said, you need to talk to them. They have a lot of money. You need to go talk. And I learned through the relationship, the conversation, through listening, that their passionate is not children. They are passionate about animals. You know what? I've so many times I said, you need to go talk to my friend at the animal shelter. This is your passion, your love, and I'm going to connect you to. And a lot of probably like, you're crazy. You just left $1 million. No, that's not That's not the way philanthropy works. That's not the way giving works, right? It's like a reciprocal. We receive way more than we give, and so whatever that looks like for you. And so it's not, it's not a difficult job. I do think everybody that was a nonprofit were good storytellers. I've come to learn that's not the case, and everybody has a different niche and gift in that works in the industry, but. For me, it's never been difficult, but it's been relationships. It's been relational. Like, that's really the focus of any giving opportunity. Anything that you're thinking about is what kind of relationship can you build with the nonprofit, and that's going to help you too. Usually, it's always very, very, very mutually beneficial.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
You guys are great. We do have to take a break because, it's one of those things.
Yes.
One of those things. Billings, we will be right back.
I don't know what your timeline is.
I also wanted to ask time.
Yeah.
I was like,
I probably in the 50. If we could if we could do it out about 12:30, would that be okay? And then you guys can finish off the show doing your jam. Yeah. I'm kind of jealous about the basketball game tonight. Like, when I heard you talking about it, I was like, oh, that would be a good game to see.
It would.
Yeah.
Because the divisional game last year that they had at MSUB,
Championship
by
game.
far one of the best.
I love high school
games I've ever
basketball.
been to.
Oh, it's high school? Okay,
Yeah.
see, I didn't hear this part.
Yeah.
So
And
Billings West is playing Bozeman Gallatin,
Yeah.
who's like obviously one of the best.
Yeah.
So is
See,
West.
that's news to me, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and their game last year at MSUB for divisionals was super great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so tonight they're playing at West.
At West, yeah.
Yeah.
Is this the first time all year that they played? All
Yeah.
season?
Yeah. So it's kind of since the last big
Since the last
game.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah.
Oh, I almost feel like I should stay and cheer for Bozeman. Like,
Yeah.
how many people would I have
Oh,
cheering
you already
for them?
made the
I'm
trek,
here.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably at the same time as the banquet, which is the real reason we
Right,
came,
yeah.
so I probably shouldn't. But
It is at 7 o'clock. So more than
Yeah.
right in the
Yeah.
middle.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Can I ask questions about the show?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, you play music, but then you have long extended talk periods. This doesn't seem like your standard like radio. So tell me a little bit more if you have time.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so this actually, it really has to do with like what we've been talking about for like the last hour.
Okay.
So in how Heather's wording this formula of like understanding yourself is how I ended up doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I grew up super sheltered. I tell people all the time I grew up in a cult.
Okay.
And I'm not even joking.
Okay.
Yeah.
My parents started their own church. They did the things. I'm the oldest of 7 because birth control was essential to going to hell.
Oh, okay.
All of the stuff.
Okay.
So historically, and there's 5 girls and then twin boys at the end.
Okay. I have a twin sister too.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Ah.
So my entire life, I was told you're a woman, this is your role, and you need to be seen and not heard. And education was not a thing. I was homeschooled through 17, and then I begged and pleaded, and like I would do anything
To go to school.
That was all I ever wanted. Went to college, realized that
so you could go to college.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Some of the things, not so much. I learned very quickly. Oh, you need to have a bank account, and you need to have a social security number, and all of these things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was only able to go to college if I did not get my GED, because then I could count as high school, and it was like $30 a credit, and my parents were like, sure, if you work for free, family business, you work for free, and then we'll like send you to college. It'll be fine. So fast forward, I got married super young because that's what you had to do. Fully prepared to homeschool my kids and be a stay-at-home mom.
Kids?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm a Y person and a butt person and a like
curious.
I'm a very curious person.
Yeah.
And I have always been that way. That's like just natural. So the whole like injustice, I have this sense of injustice for the world outside of myself, like because of my past. So I was going to turn 30 several years ago, and I was like, what is something I can do?
You do not look that old. I'm sorry.
I know.
That's a compliment.
Right.
But I never would have guessed. Okay, go ahead.
So I was like, what is something that I can do that I can like, that I had never done, right? And I'm like, I don't want kids based on some
your own
things
experience.
with my background. I would have kids, I just don't want them physically. I have dealt with it.
I don't want bear children.
Yeah.
I don't want to bear children.
Yeah.
But I am a white person, and I love that. And so I challenged myself when I turned 30 to start saying yes. And the very first thing, I was asked if I wanted to co-host a show that was asking why.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
And that's this?
That show lasted about 2 months.
Okay.
And the co-host decided that was not his jam and he didn't actually enjoy it. And I was like, oh, this is something I get to ask all the questions and do all the things. So I kind of reimagined what the show would look like. So it's a mixture. It's like a little bit of talk. It's a little bit of humor. My like slogan is, I'm going to bring you the news stories you didn't know you wanted to know about.
Yeah.
They're so good. If you listen to her, I learn something new every day. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, I didn't know that. I mean, like, okay, and this isn't a very positive, but like that Gallatin is the drunkest county in the whole country.
Oh, Gallatin?
Yes.
Yeah. We made the list for the drunkest.
Yeah,
no,
like
we made the list. You guys didn't.
Yeah, no, but I was like, how is that even possible? And you were saying like people average 9 drinks a person, like
in the country.
Yeah, in the country.
Entire country.
Like,
I mean, I'm from Alaska, and Alaska.
Oh, that's
pretty. Drinking problem. That's hard to believe. Okay.
Yeah.
But I believe you.
But so like I mean, those kind of things. I'll be listening. I'm like, oh my god, she always has great insights in regards to the news, and Okay. I learn something new every time I listen to her. Yeah.
So the news stories you didn't know you wanted to know, the trivia you needed to know.
She's good at trivia too.
Yeah. Everything in between.
I'm like, where are you getting all this information?
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
It's a thing.
And I like
yes.
I vet like so much. So I vet my like news stories and stuff. I do a lot of research because I'm like, why?
That's
like,
exactly what your passion is.
I'm not going to take things at surface level.
Yeah.
And that's how I connected with Heather.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, what do you do? How do you
Right.
do that?
Yeah.
What is the story?
Yeah. Right.
I'm Hispanic, so I'm a quarter Hispanic, and I spent the first 27 years of my life not talking about that, not acknowledging it, not being part of that. And so I have a passion for that. Education, people's basic rights.
Yeah.
So my show is half talk show, half information, half music. Like, and there's some days where I'm playing like every 10 minutes I'm playing music.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's other days like this where I'm like, we need to talk about this. I don't know who's listening, but like,
I didn't know it could be so kind of like loose.
Yeah.
So that's kind of refreshing.
I think that's I think that's the benefit of being in Montana too. Like I've told Leif, I don't think I've lived in another city, right, in Las Vegas, Orange County, in Arizona, where I could turn on the radio and I hear my friends on the radio. Like every morning,
I know somebody.
Like every morning, if I turn on Late Show, I see or hear my friends talking on something, and same thing. Like you're not going to experience that anywhere else, right? And I know it probably won't stay like that forever, but because it's growing so fast. But yeah.
But the fun part too is like I've made so many connections because of this, and people who are like they now like know things. I'm a pretty open person too.
Yeah.
It's been like
just like yes, she is.
First like 25 years of my life not saying a single thing. I thought I was an introvert.
Yeah.
No.
She's like she's more like a wallflower that's, like observes and then she
explodes.
Yeah. I will give people like, especially if like it's my friend group and they're bringing someone new into the group, I just am like, I have to tell you, like, these are the things that will come out.
Yes, yeah.
I might even
Prepare
interrogate
yourself.
you.
Yeah.
I think we'd get along great.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I've been doing this for almost 3 years now.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Isn't that long?
Oh, I know.
And have you been doing it together?
Not the whole time,
Okay.
no.
No, we met about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And he is big into sports, and so
Yeah.
I get to like bring in like that sports stuff. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm a sports person. I
Right.
don't know what's
Yeah.
happening.
Obviously.
He is great at sports knowledge, yes, and always up to date on everything. Yeah, all the things.
But yeah, we'll come back. We'll wrap up. We'll do the things.
Awesome.
Welcome back, Billings. Hopefully you were having a fantastic lunch. We've straddled the lunch hour like we do every day.
Yay!
Hopefully you're eating something good. I haven't even touched my oranges. It's winter, and so in my mind, I'm like citrus. I need citrus.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't
Yep.
know. It's
Sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. It's the thing. I've been on a grapefruit kick and an orange kick. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't drink too much electrolytes. Because I think so after
Oh my gosh, do tell.
Okay, so I didn't realize this, but so I would drink like the liquid IVs, the sugar-free ones, and I would dilute them in a big giant water bottle. So it wasn't really the serving size. But what I didn't realize, and I was like, I've heard that the liquid IVs are not so good, and I should try a different brand. So I went to Element, and they're no sugar, but they're high sodium, potassium, magnesium, right? All the things. So what Heather forgot was that I have high blood pressure.
Oh.
And when I started the Elements, they weren't as big, so I would make them in smaller. And so like last week, I was drinking them, and every time I would like, my eyes would get blurry. I would like, yes. And I'd be like, and so then I think it was on Monday last week, I was like almost passed out, and then I innately knew what it was. Like I called the doctor. I said, I think, and she's like, you have, and then I kind of going electrolyte and sodium overdose. Like it's a real thing. And I was like, what? Like,
okay, you're like
you could die. You could die. Yeah. Like, and she was like, you could die. Like if you don't have high blood pressure, it's not such a big deal. But if you do, then you really shouldn't be drinking a lot of electrolytes, or what I'm saying, unless you're working out for 5 hours a day. Right.
And there's our health message for the day.
Yeah. It's very, So I think, and one of my friends, she told me about a gentleman who they thought had Alzheimer's, and it was, he had electrolyte overdose. It makes you, so like I couldn't concentrate. I was like, I just was like, I don't know what's happening right now. Literally, so I went home, and then I called, and then I had to go and get an IV flush, and like it was just
wow.
so check, and I knew, because I was like, why does it keep on happening after I was like, oh, and then I took my blood pressure. I was like, there it was, yeah.
Wow.
You're the only person I've ever met who's
I know.
You need all the electrolytes.
I know, right? Like I said, if you're working out 4 hours of like high intense, I mean, I work out pretty, but not 4 hours where I need to take that much in of electrolytes, right? Like it is a thing. So be careful, like especially kids, because they love that, like the Mios and all the element. You know what I'm saying? And just be careful, especially if you have high blood pressure. My goal is to get off blood pressure medication, not go back to a higher dose. Like I was like, what am I doing? Yeah. So be careful.
I am learning so much this morning.
I know.
I was not expecting to learn.
Yeah.
I told you. I bring you the news.
She
stories,
does.
You didn't know the trivia. You
brings
didn't
it out.
know, like,
Brings
these
it
are
out.
things, like you never know.
Yeah.
And we're building community.
That's right.
So that's the biggest thing. Okay, so obviously you guys can't hang out with me forever.
Right. We wish you could.
I know, right? My partner, he's always like, well, some of us just don't get to hang out with our friends for work.
I know. I do. Like, yeah, I do. Yeah,
and he's like,
you got to create that. It's your choice, right?
We can talk sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just be quiet the whole time.
Yeah.
But we have Heather, we have Catherine on Worthy Ranch, Worthiness Formula, Catherine with the Gianforte Family Foundation, doing good all across
Montana,
the state and the country.
Yeah.
And I believe even, I'm taking our one survivor story, worldwide.
Yeah.
Like this is a global, like we're helping.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's, you just don't realize that, but yep.
That ripple effect, you never know what that ripple effect is. So the Worthy Ranch just recently got a grant from the Gianforte Family Foundation to further their mission, their goals, what they are promoting, who they're helping, the education, everything. If someone has listened to all of us and they're like, I want to be friends with these people too.
Yes. Right.
And this is a question for each of you. How can they get involved? So how can they get involved with the Worthy Ranch specifically right now?
Yeah. So right now, because it is Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month, you could go down to Billings Depot. You could grab a ribbon from them and tie one on to show you're standing against human trafficking in Billings.
Blue for truth.
Blue for truth. Tie for truth. So, or you can do that at your own house or your own business, wherever. For more information about how to get involved and maybe you want to volunteer, at the Worthy Ranch, you go online to theworthyranch.org and all our information is on there. There's a volunteer contact form. And currently we're looking for like leadership committee members. We, working on building the property this next year and what that looks like.
Tell me all
but
I will get to
it
that
is.
part.
and the Worthy Ranch will be a place that welcomes everybody. And, ecotherapy and equine therapy are at the core of that, along with other healing modalities. So there'll be something for everyone. And then all of the things that happen at the Worthy Ranch will benefit survivors of human trafficking and abuse. So yeah, it's exciting. It's 10 years in the making. And thank you to Catherine and the Gianforte, for, believing. And you just, when you take on something like that is a vision or a dream, and to see other people get behind it. And that is just mind blowing, right? And then I look at this is like why movie stars and pop stars, and they have this vision and dream, and people just, all you have to do is really step into it, and then they'll come, right? Right. If you build it, they will come. So, and then you can everybody knows social media is a great place to connect with me too, like Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, I'm always, and my goal is to help this world evolve, and to inspire them to be their best selves, to become who they're meant to be.
So yes, you can do it.
Yes, you can. You are worthy. Stay worthy, my friends.
I love it. So if someone wants to get involved with the Gianforte Family Foundation, in all capacities, whether, what can they do?
Well, we're always happy to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And my coworkers and my family will tell you that I'm pretty much I want to be everybody's friend once I meet them. Yeah. Whether they feel the same way or not. But I'm just instant friends. So they can always reach out to us on our website, gianfortefoundation.org. There's a contact us page, and that goes directly to us. And we respond within a couple days at the most when we get those forms. So that's the easiest way. If usually it's a nonprofit, right? That's looking to see if their work aligns with what we're trying to accomplish. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But they can anybody can ask through that. And we'll let you know either way. Yeah. We respond to everybody.
Love it. You also do a lot of training. So it is training because, like I said, we have some great nonprofits, and education is key, and constantly learning new things, new ways of dealing with stuff. So you guys also provide
we have some enrichment programs.
Training.
Yes, we do. And right now those are for our partners that we've already been working with. We have to limit it, a little bit, because we want it to be kind of an intimate situation where you build those relationships, right? And that's hard to do when you have hundreds and hundreds of people. I'll tell you. I'll share it with you. So yes, we do have that training, and that is something that I'm particularly passionate about, and I love all of it. I even love figuring out the logistics.
Yes. And it's great. I mean, like, I think the best thing is that not only are they funding the programs, now they're helping build and sustain the programs by educating the leadership in the organization. And so we're fueled by the funding, but we get to go to this 2-day leadership, conference with Gianforte. We get to be amongst our peers, and we come back even more fueled and excited about our mission than we were before we went there. So it's also very motivating too. And I, even being in the industry for 30 plus years, nations that are there to learn from.
Yeah,
right?
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah, we do. We all connect and learn from each other.
You're like, oh, you're in Billings, I'm in Billings.
Yeah.
I'm doing this.
Yes.
And it's just, building friendship.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Well, I guess you guys can get back to work.
It's fun.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But, and there went my mic. There we go. No, I don't know.
There you go.
It's back.
Yeah.
It's just a thing I've been dealing with. Anyways, if you want to learn more, theworthyranch.org,
Yep.
the Gianforte Family Foundation.
Yep.
You can check out their websites. If you want to give, you can give at both of those.
Yep. That's right.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
But definitely do some research if you are called to be more philanthropic.
Yeah.
Your time is one of the most valuable things to a nonprofit.
Yeah.
You are able to give your time.
Yeah. Expertise.
Your expertise.
Talents. Yeah.
It is one of those things.
And a great way to get to know a nonprofit that you
Yes.
may end up supporting in the future.
Volunteer
That's the perfect
first.
first step.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
This
thanks.
has been so much fun. Well, Billings, hopefully you have learned something because I know that I have, even if it is just the fact that you can in fact OD from electrolytes. Who would have thought? I don't have high blood pressure, but now
You
I
never
feel like I
know.
need to,
Never
like,
get
check.
it.
Pay attention to sodium. You could get it from drinking too much electrolytes.
My last trivia piece as you both head out. Apparently, in the list of old world issues that we used to have, iodine, so salt, sodium, we're seeing cases of people not getting enough iodine again.
Yeah.
So you know what? Check that iodine.
So maybe they do need
levels.
electrolytes.
I was like, electrolytes, but check the electrolyte. 'Cause
Yes.
the reason why is because we rely so much on processed food.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Processed food companies are not using
Iodine.
salt. So
Oh,
even if it has
use it at home.
salt,
Yeah.
you still,
Yeah.
So there we go.
Good to know.
We're going to play some music. We'll be back. I'm going to take a photo. Do the
Yes.
things,
Nice.
cuddle the babies, sign some
Thank
names,
you.
all the stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. So how was your first